Montgomery County Executive Mark Elrich has an interesting way of making friends and influencing people. Last week, he and other progressive leaders came out with a proposal to make taxes fairer, more fair. We need more, everything needs to be more fair in life today. Increase an additional tax on incomes over $1 million, impose a surtax of 1% on capital gains, and lowering the exemption on estate taxes to $2 million instead of having it paired with the federal estate tax exemption of $10 million. That's kind of all routine stuff for an uber progressive Paul like Elrich. But then here's the kicker. In making the proposal, he accused the legislature of being in the pocket of the rich lobbyists that comes with strings attached, including the Montgomery County delegation. Mike, the latter shot outraged Senate President Bill Ferguson, one of the most powerful players in Annapolis, and he said this in Maryland Matters. There was an article today in which a number of county executives across the state questioned the motives of the members of this body. I just remind them that as often that we have policy differences here and there, but when they come down and continuously ask for help over and over, and then decide to do a press conference questioning the motives of the members of this chamber, I would encourage them to really rethink that approach. That was kind of nice, soft criticism from the Senate leader.
Yeah, no, I mean, I saw when the press conference occurred, and I really was trying to understand the rationale. 2 months into the legislative session, the month when everyone's starting to make all the decisions, the intent was to go down and effectively, you know, dump all over the folks who are making those decisions on your behalf. And it really didn't make a lot of sense, except for the fact that it's consistent with County Executive Elrich's general approach. I think I read an article that it's much more about being right than actually getting things done. And I think that's consistent. And unfortunately, that's kind of where we've been as a county under that leadership. And the reality is that, I've heard him speak a number of different times that, the county is limited in what it can do. And so we need more from the state. Well, okay, if you need more from the state, then you better come up with a good way to work with the state to be able to identify those resources and come up with a good plan. And so instead, he went after the folks at the state and told them that they were in the pockets of other folks, while at the same time trying to get leverage to be able to increase the ability to raise taxes locally, which he also needed their approval to do. So effectively, he shot himself in both feet at the same time.
So, Mark, there were a lot of critics, and one anonymous critic came out and said that Mark Elrich is an embarrassment. He came to Annapolis and impugned the motives of his own Montgomery County member delegation. I can't think of anything more damaging. This is the killer line. He should lock himself in Rockville and leave the lobbying to the professionals, Mel Wenger and Rich Madalino. This mistake is almost certainly unrecoverable.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty good ding, and it's interesting, the dynamics to think about of a Montgomery County surtax on upper incomes, whether it's capital gains or what have you, actually would accrue to would against the state of Maryland for Montgomery County, which is the home of probably the largest numbers of the qualified people for this. Driving those people out of the state to Florida or wherever would really be against the overall interest of the state of Maryland's revenue. And of course, if it just was going to benefit to the state, the county, I think the state government has every interest to avoid a Montgomery County specific tax increase.
What's interesting is that, and we're going to talk about the county budget next week when we have time. But Mr. Elrich came out yesterday and said that there is no need for any increased taxes here in Montgomery County. I think he wants to deflect away from the statements that he made by saying, well, we're fine here in Montgomery County for right now. We don't need any tax increases. We had a large tax increase the past 2 years. But we want the state to give us more aid and support and comfort.
Well, and I think one of the challenges is, and it's always fun to have kind of the political conversation, and you come up with whoever the punching bag is of the week, and he certainly gave us great fodder to be able to go after him. But the reality is that, we've got 1.1 million people in the county and there are a lot of challenges right now. We've got a county with no economic growth. We've got a county where our schools are struggling. We don't have transportation infrastructure that we need. And at a time when we should be thinking about how are we collectively looking at addressing the needs of that community. He's trying to be right, and it creates a center of attention on him and the statements that he's made, but it pulls it away from the actual work that needs to be done that isn't getting done. And as a result, we continue to fall further and further behind some of our neighboring jurisdictions. And that's the real unfortunate part about that.
Well, the one thing you didn't touch on, Mike, is the crime issue, and crime crime is increasing, and we are continuing to have a inability to recruit a sufficient number of police officers to help address that crime issue. I mean, Mr. Elrod, I'm sorry, Mark, did you have something to say?
No, I was going to, I didn't, but I will say, I think you put your finger on it. Montgomery County has lagged behind the other jurisdictions within the region on a whole variety of indicators. Mike touched on quite a few of the economic ones. You've touched on crime. And, we should be doing a much better job of running the county rather than attacking others or talking about driving folks who are paying the bills out of the county.
What I find interesting is the sub rosa relationship between the county executive and the county council. I mean, we saw the county council reject his nominee for the fire department chief. We now have a search ongoing for a new education superintendent, and again another fire chief. And so I mean, there's some dynamic tensions going on, huh?
And a new police chief.
And a new police chief. So we have some dynamic tensions going on, and it'll be interesting. This was the first year of the expanded county council, or is it the first or second year?
Second year.
The expanded county council, and there's a changing dynamic going on in our political structure.
There is, and I think the one piece I would kind of like to end with is we still live in an amazing community. We have an amazing array of assets and resources. And I think that's the part that's most frustrating is rather than being able to focus on how do you take those assets and resources and make the community stronger, we continue to kind of be sliding a little bit further behind where we've been in our neighboring jurisdictions. And when you look at that, you kind of wring your hands and go, how is this happening here? But when you look at comments like that have been made out in Annapolis and the focus on things like that rather than substantive things we've just talked about here, it becomes clear maybe why that slippage is taking place.